Agents, I am Dr. Yuri Nagassa.
They all know who I am. I'm not going to.
They do not all know you, Oliver.
All right, fine. I am Dr. Oliver Lynton-Wolfe, as you already know.
Agents, we just wanted to let you know at the top that we received a message from the tethered hand. We should expect their transmission of tessellation results this Thursday.
Now on to some other business. The NIA has been feeding us the internal Nemesis communications that some of you agents have been intercepting. Thank you so much. The latest one referred to the tessellation as a membrane. Well, we're starting to think that the tessellation is more than just a game the tethered hand is making us play. Our latest theory is that the tessellation is a membrane around our universe, deciding what gets in and what gets kept out.
Hank Johnson has told us the story of the great victory of Alexander the Great Magnus won over the Nasir thousands of years ago. They managed to banish the Nasir not just from our earth, but from most of our human history and memory. For many years, Hank has wondered how Alexander achieved this. Now, it is starting to make sense.
We think that Alexander, we think that Alexander did this by tweaking the tessellation membrane around our universe. He adjusted it to filter out the Nasir influence while at the same time leaving it permeable to Shaper influence.
Yes, many times throughout history, we've seen individuals use prime artifacts to pave the way for the Shapers, or for the Nasirs. All of this time, we've seen the effects, but not the cause. In every case, whether they knew it or not, what they were really doing was altering the tessellation membrane to make it harder or easier to certain exogenous to exert influence on our world.
And that's why the Shapers and the Nasir have been threatening aggression for so long without it ever coming to pass. The conditions simply haven't been right. It's why they have insidiously reached into our thoughts via the XM instead of just coming over and doing their own dirty work. They can't adjust the tessellation from their side, so they've been trying to manipulate it and manipulate us into doing it for them.
We don't know who or what built the tessellation, why they did it, or how long it's been there, but now we think we at least know what it is. A filter to maintain the balance of exogenous influence on human society.
I have some ideas, but we'll talk about that later.
Okay, remember to tell me. As many of you know, my mother was part of the South American tribe called the Aztec, and I grew up with them in the Andes Mountains. For as far back as my people can remember, we have worshipped exogenous entities, far before anyone was aware of XM. Now I am, it turns out, an XM sensitive, just like the rest of the Niantic Project researchers. And my archetype is the dreamer.
I'm an alchemist, for what's that worth? Not worth very much.
Well, sensitive and Aztec tend to have some degree of access to what you might think as an ancestral memory, especially when in anomalous zones, like the Valley of the Dead, El Valle de los Muertos.
Valle de los Muertos. It's beautiful.
That's good pronunciation.
Thank you. Studied a little bit of Spanish, addition of French, Arabic, and Portuguese. I have a little affinity for languages.
Well, I don't know how to fully tap into it, but even the brief glimpses I've gotten have shown me images from the exogenous era. Well, more like fake impressions.
This is the time of Earth's history when your people believed the exogenous walked the Earth.
Yes, that's right, Oliver.
Did the exogenous era have any overlap with humankind, by your estimation and your research?
We believe yes. But it would only have been a small window. For my people to have any memory of it, they must have existed at that time.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you're researching the exogenous era might shed some light on our current predicament. Is that what you're thinking?
I have always tried to find the good in things. I happen to have more in common with the Shapers than with the Nasirs. But I recognize the value in both, the balance. Well, Nemesis seems to be driven entirely by their hatred of the exogenous in all forms.
Oh, if Nemesis knows something that we don't know, if their fear of the exogenous is justified.
Yes, exactly. Now, there are only a few things that we know have survived from the exogenous era.
Prime artifacts you're talking about.
Yes. They were forged by exogenous during that era for purposes that we still don't fully understand. I've spent a lot of my time here looking into that because I think that knowing what the prime artifacts were designed to do could help us to get a clearer picture of the motivations of the exogenous.
Plus, there are those prime artifacts sitting on the border of the tessellation, just waiting to be activated. And Helvetica summoned hundreds of copies of the artifacts from different worlds in the multiverse during the September field test. So it definitely seems like both the Tethered Hand and Nemesis have a vested interest in the prime artifacts. I'd certainly like to know specifically what that interest is. Obviously, they're powerful, right?
Yes.
And speaking of Helvetica, a few of you were asking what happened with Schubert. Long story short, we found him. I got to tell you, when he ran, it made him look guilty.
Well, the NIA... Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention that Schubert ran because you were threatening to torture him for information.
Believe me, my dear Dr. Nagassa, Nemesis would not hesitate to do the same to us if we were in their hands. In any event, I no longer believe in Schubert being Helvetica, even though I would like to, because I would like to anyway. But the whole thing has gotten me thinking about our multiversal counterparts.
The NIA has been referring to the Earth we come from as Osiris node. Well, we believe there is a Nemesis node somewhere out there. This is where Nemesis comes from.
Well, most of them at least. The Hank Johnson in their repertoire seems to come from another universe altogether. But that, let's not split hairs here. The point is, we're pretty sure the Martin Schubert from the Nemesis node looks exactly like ours, and that's who we saw in the Helvetica Unmasked video. But here's the interesting thing. I've seen a photograph of the Oliver Lynton-Wolfe from the 1218 node. He's older and very Caucasian.
What's your point, Oliver?
My point is this. My surname is British. It comes from my father's side, but the only way the other node would get an Oliver Lynton-Wolfe that looks like me, like that, Caucasian, is if my father on that world married a different woman than he married on ours.
Oh, yeah, I suppose that tracks.
Right,
yeah.
so okay then, what are the odds that my father in that universe would marry an entirely different woman at an entirely different period in his life, and that they would still name that child Oliver, and that he would grow up to be a pivotal and extremely important figure in the study of exotic matter? What are the odds of that, Dr. Nagassa?
When you put it that way, the odds against that happening would seem to be almost astronomical.
Right. So, I have come up with a theory about this, and I wrote it on this paper.
And let me take notes of your theory.
Okay.
This is very interesting.
There must be an Oliver Lynton-Wolfe on every world of the multiverse. Fate or destiny or whatever you want to call it, karma, Oliver Lynton-Wolfe is a constant. Circumstances on every world conspire to make sure that I exist.
That is incredibly egotistical, Oliver, but if you are right, then that might be true for all of us.
Well, maybe, but yeah, definitely for me.
But all of the Niantic Project researchers, I think, might be the same case. Both worlds that we know about both worlds that we know have had an epiphany night. Maybe that's set in stone too. Maybe certain events, certain people, certain paths are inevitable. Anyway, if this is true, It makes me wonder what happened to our nemesis counterparts to make them the way they are.
Could be jealousy, but anyway. All I care about is that we know now how to tell one counterpart from the other. The musical theme that Enoch found, the one that defines each of us, it varies slightly from world to world. It's how I only get my own memories back when we recurse, and not the memories of all the other Oliver Lynton-Wolfes stored in the XM substrate.
You know something? That actually gives me an idea. We can talk about it after the transmission.
Okay.
But anyway, bottom line, our Schubert is not Helvetica. See? Aren't you glad you didn't torture him?
No.
Okay, I think it's time we take some questions.
All right, let's see what we got here.
We have a question from Silver Smurfer.
Okay.
Question for Yuri, for me. What is your best memory of growing up with the tribe? Do you have any childhood keepsakes that hold special relevance? Thank you for that question. I will have to say one of my fondest memories from childhood was the first time my mother took me to the Valley of the Dead. The name makes it sound morbid.
Not to me.
El Valle de los Muertos. But in truth, it is wonderful. It is an amazing place. It was the first time I truly got a sense of my heritage, of my long line of ancestors that stretch all the way back to the exogenous era. In the Valley of the Dead, I could actually see them, the ancient and Aztec. The only thing that could have made it better is if I could have spoken to them. It looked like they wanted to speak, like they were trying to. I think I was merely not ready to hear them. I sincerely hope that one day, when we are able to leave this bubble, I'll have another chance to visit that beautiful place and talk to my ancestors.
We might get you some tech for you to be able to hear that a little better too. Maybe I'll design it for you. What do you think?
That would be really good.
All right. Let's see this other question. We have a question from someone named Nabuna OS. OLW, what did you learn from the Power Cube incident? You know something? I am very glad you asked that question. When the Power Cube exploded, I took the blame. The NIA needed a scapegoat, right? And I was an easy person to point to. You think that after I invented the Ingress scanner, the single most important development in the history of the study of XM, that they would show a little solidarity, if not gratitude, right? But as I mentioned before, people tend to be driven exclusively by ESI. ESI. I've coined it many times. Enlightened self-interest.
Oh my God.
Even worse, I knew the explosion wasn't my fault because I checked and rechecked my calculations, which I don't need to do because I don't make mistakes. The Power Cube simply should not have overloaded, barring some kind of external complications. While I believe Dr. Lightman and, how do you say their name? Carisi? I never know how to say it. You know, it's impossible to say. Have finally vindicated me in this. They believe that a team of operatives from another world used remote participation, RP, to influence the Niantic project facility on Epiphany night. And that this team somehow caused the explosion in an act of deliberate sabotage, so it wasn't me. So I guess in answer to your question, I learned two things from the Power Cube incident. The first is that I should never second guess myself because I'm never wrong. Not even the recursed version of myself. It's also never wrong. The second is that in the end, I can trust no one but myself. Okay.
I think we have another question for you.
Okay, we can take, sure. Falco Bird. Why, OLW, why would you shard yourself, thusly trapping yourself in the bubble? Well, I didn't know at the time that I would get trapped here. If I didn't turn myself into shards, Nemesis would have done the same thing. So I would have ended up here in any event. So I'm just hoping I can find a way to get out of here. Anyway. It's a good question, though. Let's look at another question. Astro Dreamer 1, what happened to your Cthulhu?
Oh.
Astral Dreamer, I assume you're referring to the Cthulhu constructed immediately prior to my own simulacrum self-destruction, right? Well, Unfortunately, that device seems to have fallen in the hands of Nemesis. Access to dangerous technology.
In all likelihood, getting access to that tech was how Nemesis was able to move about the portal network as shards.
Are you subtly blaming me? I'm so sorry if you are. This is me apologizing. Oh. In any event, I have reconsidered my position on Cthulhu's altogether.
How so?
Well, in the past, my attitude was, if these exogenous forces wanted to help me along with my experiments, why not let them?
What's changed now?
Well, as you know, there's no love lost between me and Nemesis. I want to wipe out every single one of them, but you have to admire their tenacity, their single-minded pursuit of the destruction of all things exogenous. It tells us a lot about how they think, you know? Say what you will about their methods, but I think Nemesis truly believes that the exogenous are the biggest threat the multiverse has ever faced.
Does this mean you've changed your position on the Shapers?
Look, I've always subscribed to the theory of ESI, which is...
Enlightenment, self-interest?
Exactly. I only ever supported the Shapers insofar as I believed they were supporting me. But now I'm thinking about the flip side of that. Why would the Shapers whisper in my ear how to build these Cthulhus of unimaginable power unless it somehow benefited them?
You don't believe a being could be selfless in their aid to another.
Dr. Nagassa, everything you selflessly do makes you feel a little something good inside, doesn't it? Therefore, it's for you, not them. And that being the case, if there's anything questioning about the motives of the exogenous, I have to weigh whether accepting their help might actually hurt us in the long run.
So, does that make you resistance now?
Whoa, I'm still enlightened, in so much as I believe that XM will be the foundation of the biggest scientific breakthroughs in the whole of human history. But suffice to say, the next time the Shapers call, I'm sending them straight to voicemail. Not that we get calls or voicemail here. At least until we know what they truly want. Besides, Oliver Lynton-Wolfe needs help from no one. Let's take something else here.
We have a question from Catalina Reyes. Yuri, so you actually said that the exogenous were physically in our plane at some point? Yes, that is what the Aztec believe, and it's what I believe. Even though many believe that the exogenous mean us harm, a part of me still really wants to see that they look like firsthand. They are very important to my people. And I think they've been important to the development of humankind. So yes. And there's another question from Arc Fang. Question for both of us.
All right.
In the tethered hand round 3 results video, when the Helvetica Tessera is placed, caption, "What's in for me?" at approximately 2 minutes 19 seconds that the Tessera is placed, and it shimmers just like the others, but also causes the mystery Tessera, I-13, to slightly shimmer and move to the next stage of progression, 3/7. Is there anything you can tell us about this? Has the NIA seen this and have any information? Should we be worried about what happens when the progression of Nemesis symbol in the Tessera reaches 100% as well as the Tessera that triggered the progression?
Wow, that's a very complicated question.
That's a very good question.
The person must have a PhD. Not as good as mine, but, maybe one of those 2-year varieties.
Very good question. And I actually have some theories on that, as you said. The piece in question, I-13, seems to have 7 iterations. And it definitely corresponds to certain members of Nemesis.
But aren't there 13 members of Nemesis?
Yes, but actually the number 7 has come up a few times in regards to Nemesis. I was talking to Lightman recently about something he had been working on just before Nemesis destroyed his simulacrum. He discovered that the Nemesis runes were derived from graphical representations of the wavelengths of visible light.
Ah, Roy G. Biv, the 7 colors in the visible light spectrum.
Precisely, yeah.
And how does this relate to this piece on the tessellation board?
Well, we are seeing a lot of evidence that Nemesis members are each associated with a specific color.
Yes, from the Nemesis transmissions on some of the tesserae, right?
My theory is that there are 7 core members of Nemesis, the ones that correspond to the 7 colors in the visual light spectrum.
Wait, I'm getting something here. 7 core members, 7 visual light spectrums, there are 7 chakras, there are 7 musical notes, there are 7 emotions.
Exactly.
What's with this number 7? All right, anyway.
Interesting.
Anyway, could that also have something to do with why some live drop Nemesis tesserae are worth more points than others?
Actually, yeah, probably. I hadn't put that together before now. It might even be related to the discrepancy between the number of tesserae that the tethered hand originally reported and the number that actually appeared on the board. Very interesting. I will certainly be interested to learn what, if anything, these Nemesis color designations ultimately mean.
I am too. Let's take another question here. This is from Cyber Wizard Productions. Yuri, how can you put up with OLW? What?
That's an excellent question. Honestly, it gets harder every day.
I don't, Cyber Wizard Productions, what is there to put up with? It's a fount of wisdom coming from this side of the board. What's that mean? Is that a South American thing?
It's a South American gesture.
What is it? Can you explain what it means? Okay.
No, I can explain you that after transmission, Oliver.
All right. Well, I have another question here from EG5000. Dr. Lynton-Wolfe, we've noticed your hair is quite a bit longer. Well, that's a good observation. What do you think of my hair, by the way?
I think it's getting longer. But you know, because I see you every day, it's hard for me to tell. So I truly trust what people who are watching this live stream say.
You've noticed that the ends are not as clean as they normally are. Guess why? There is no barber in the bubble here. I rely on myself using a nail clipper that I've stored in my shoe to cut off my hair. So it's just not going to be a great thing. But your hair looks remarkably beautiful.
Oh, thank you so much. I guess some of the products that we are getting in this bubble are good. Good enough. But it's also longer too. You know, there's no choice here. I wonder how we're going to look at the end of this.
Yeah, well, we'll find out, won't we? All right. Link Volt, a question for Dr. Oliver Lynton-Wolfe. First, do you know what the bubble is? Do I know what the bubble is? Do I know? Of course I've thought about it. Let me get my notes here. I think it's more like there's a bubble around the Osiris node, aka Earth, and what we are trapped is outside of that. It's like these Nemesis barriers that are keeping us from getting home. And if I have anything to do with it, we're going to take those barriers down and take the fight to Nemesis. It's a very good question. We're getting angry in here, getting a little pent up. Anything else here? All right. There is a question here.
Question from Denise Frolich. Hello, Yuri. Hello, Oliver. Do
Hi.
you have any more information about the undyne silica? Denise, referring to this, as many of you know, the undyne are a mysterious third kind of exogenous, at least as old as the shapers and the Nazir. We don't know much about them yet, but it does appear that both the shapers and the Nazirs are afraid of them.
Do you think we should ally with them?
I would say we have to get to know them better first.
You're very cautious as a person, aren't you?
In some aspects, yeah.
I think it's important to put feelers out in that direction, though, don't you think?
We'll talk about it.
You're very interesting. All right.
Another question from Mario Valenzuela. Yuri, hello. Do you think that the fact that the 1218 node agents were about to enter the exogenous era prior to our being shunted into the Osiris node is troubling? In the 1218 node was poised to enter another exogenous era. Then entities might have been about to return. As to whether that's troubling, I guess that depends on your feelings about the exogenous.
Right, if you think they're good or they're bad. What do you think?
That's so extreme. I don't know.
No. That's why humans have so much trouble. That's why I kind of live in the middle. The genius of and, as I say. Good and bad. Yes and no.
Getting back to the question I had
Yes.
before, it's hard to put up with him sometimes.
I don't understand why I'm not doing this whole thing myself, basically. That's basically my first question, although you're quite lovely to have here. I mean, I can pretty much answer all these questions, don't you think?
I think you're right. Oh, look at the beautiful images we have here.
I'm wondering why Jarvis decided to put that up there. It's kind of annoying. We're stuck in a bubble, and he's putting up pictures of a
Jarvis,
mountain
in
that I
a
can't go
desire
to.
to make things better for us, he's been putting up these images in the bubbles so we, get some sense of Earth, even being here, even though our experience is so disattached from this. But, this is quite lovely. He's screening this Andes Mountains, Cordillera de los Andes images for me to make me feel better.
Okay.
What would you like to see over there, Oliver?
I don't know. Yeah. Well, Dr. Nagassa, you were very, very lovely right there. I'm wondering why Nemesis...
Is there a transmission coming in?
I don't know. The things that we do. If what we just saw is any indication of what they've been through, I think maybe I'm starting to understand them better myself.